Okay, interesting post by Brad Spangler here on his Facebook page. After many delays in launching the new podcast I had been hoping to start, the last few days have been solely the result of procrastination from depression and anxiety. Then this morning my new Asus N550J notebook PC failed to boot. Asus tech support recommends exchanging it through Amazon. I think what I'm going to do immediately after making this post, though, is to see about peaceably turning myself into the Kansas City Police Department, confirming this confession, refusing any potential bond, and facing accountability in court. ... During a particularly bad period in 2004, I molested my young daughter. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Talks about the widespread civil liberties. I want to confirm that I'm neither suicidal nor intent on harming anyone. Blah, blah, blah. My declining physical health, apparently from my atomic photography, means I probably don't have many years left to live in which attempts could be made at restitution. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, I mean, what is this? Is this real? Did someone hack his account? I don't know. But one thing that I found funny is that Brad Spangler once posted one of my videos on his blog, and but then he took it down because some commenter said, "Oh, this video is made by Ryan Falk, who is a known racist. So take this video down because he is a known racist." Okay, this is the guy who did that. I mean, first off, I mean that's just chicken shit, like to do something like that. But because like if someone makes a point that you agree with, but then they say something over here that you don't like let me put it this way. I don't know about Brad Spangler in particular, but I know left libertarians in general at the Center for the Stateless Society will interact with neocons, right? People who support, bombing people, right? Blowing up little children's faces into flowers of gore, right? So they'll meet with people who support doing that, who support going into other countries and just, slaughtering people, right? I mean, I don't know what could be worse than that. I mean, perhaps torturing them before you slaughter them, which the United States, a few people in the United States have been caught doing, but by and large, the United States does not do that. So they'll interact with those people. And there's even some comments here. Now, these were not the norm of the comments. Most of the comments basically said, "Kill yourself, Brad." But there are some comments here. Here's one by Travis Wilson. "Brad, if this is true, I'm incredibly sorry for you, even more for your daughter and family. Your daughter's welfare should come first and foremost. Hope that your daughter gets the help she needs, and I wish the same for you. I cannot help but think to myself that the police and the courts will not help in easing your pain, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing that any outside person or entity can do to make reparations or restitution proper between your daughter and yourself." Right? So, yeah, so he's feeling sorry for Brad. More for his daughter, but he's still sorry for Brad. Stacey Ann Litz says, "I appreciate this post for his honesty and that he recognizes his mistake. For doing such a thing like this, he shows his remorse and is literally taking the stones as they come." No, he's not. He's taking Facebook comments as they come. Okay. But that's, of course, all assuming that this is a real post. That this is not a result of a hacking, which I would not, throw aside. One thing, though, that I'm thinking of is like these people who are, again, and I have to reiterate that these people are in a severe minority in terms of the nature of the posts. But one thing I want to think about is that one general thing you see all through the posts is they say Brad Spangler does not reflect upon libertarians in general, or even on left libertarians in general, right? The people who, left libertarian means, the full-on Bakuninite, anarchist, or it could mean like left Rothbardian, which is anarcho-capitalism as a form of socialism. Right? This is all sorts of stuff that could left libertarian could mean. But let me put it this way. So they're saying, but basically they're saying that this thing is specific to Brad Spangler. It's not reflective of his ideology. It's not reflective of the kind of people who subscribe to his views. And and I certainly agree to that. But what if some white nationalist came out admitting that he molested his daughter? Would they provide the same kind of charity that they ask for here, saying this is not reflective of? Would they go, yeah, sure, David Duke molested his daughter, but this is not reflective of white nationalists in general? Okay. Now, one thing that they'll do is they'll do something shitty. They'll say, well, white nationalists support killing all black people and killing all Jews and killing all Mexicans. They support invading every single non-white country on the earth and enslaving every single one of them. Right? This is just making up, cartoon villain bullshit, right? And so justify their pathologization on those grounds. So they could do that, and that has been done, says Ryan Falk in passive voice. But like I'm just thinking about it, but they won't, right? Whenever something like this happens, they then pathologize this onto the rest of the people who have any kind of ideological proximity, right? Oh, look, a conservative did X. This is what conservative blah 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 values means. Oh, look, this person took government handouts while criticizing welfare. Right? This is conservatives. This is the nature of all conservatives, right? Right? So I don't see, and Brad Spangler wrote some posts in the past saying that the punishment for rape is death, basically, right? And I don't hear anybody, and there are a few people, and not many of them are calling for death. I'd say maybe about a third are in the comments section. So it's kind of weird. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they say, this doesn't reflect upon all left libertarians generally. Oh, are you going to give that same kind of charity to other political persuasions? They don't. They don't. Anything that a single member of an opposing ideological camp does, they then pathologize onto the rest of that ideological camp, like that. Right? So, and I'm just thinking, like, these people who are giving the what they think is a child molester the benefit, like, saying that they're not ripping into him very hard. They're saying, well, you have a problem. I'm sorry for you. Hope you get through this. Okay, well, so what about somebody who says, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to set up a new, I want, pan-secessionism. Right? I'm fine with, everybody going their own way, but the way I want to go is an all-white racial state. Right? You want to do your anarchist thing in an anarchist regional set-aside? Cool. I want to have all-white state. Okay? And but of course, who's the evil one, right? Who do they hate? Who do they pathologize? Who do they treat as some sort of, right? Like they would never be this soft on somebody who just wants to say, hey, let's have regional set aside. This is going to be Whitelandia here, okay? There's going to be some issues for the people already in that area. They're going to have to move, but people move all the time in the United States, or people moved all throughout history. So moving is, you can cry if you want. Now the area is already mostly white, so you can stay if you want. But anyway, there's always going to be problems with carving up new states, and because people are going to have to move around based on the political boundaries, right? That's the problem with states. It's going to be the same problem with an anarchist regional set aside. People who don't want to be part of your either whatever your property norms are, right? Be they some sort of communal homesteading or some sort of neo-Lockean norms. If they don't like that, they're going to have to move aside. So there's always the people being forced to move out of an area is not a specific criticism to racial separation. Um, right, the anarchist regions, not states, but anarchist regions with a sort of instantiated property acquisition and maintenance norms that sustains the whole shebang. Right, those are going to force some people out, and they're going to force some people out at the point of guns, and property is defended at the point of guns. Okay, so they're going to force people out as a result of that. Well, so would a racial state of any race would do. So this idea, well, you're going to force people to leave your country on the basis. Well, so are you. Okay. Now, what you could say, there's one thing they could say. They could say, well, they don't have to leave because we're not racially exclusive, we're ideologically exclusive. And so if they're willing to live in a commune, they can stay. Right? And for the white racial state, for example, a black person can't, become willing to be white and stay. Right? That's not an option. So I guess in that sense, he is excluded more forcibly. Right? But then I'm going off on tangents here about rights of exclusion, right? But let me put it this way: these people will. I think breaking bread is a bit too strong a way to describe it, but they will interact with war supporters, with neoconservative war supporters, okay? And and they support a carving out some sort of anarchist region out of the United States or any other country that they may be in at the time, out of Canada, out of Western European countries, wherever they are, they support carving out multiple anarchist regions. Now, these multiple anarchist regions will, in fact, displace people. Now, a racial region carved out of the United States will, in fact, displace people. The difference, I guess what they're saying, the reason that they hate that they have a profound hate for this racial carve-out when they themselves support an anarchist carve-out, and causes them to hate the racial carver-outers more than they hate the people who support, blowing off people's limbs. I guess is because, the stated reasons that they come up with is that the racial state, the racial carver-outer area, would force out people of other races, and they have no opportunity to remain in. Whereas people who happen to be living in the territorial set aside for an anarchist region, right? If they can agree to the principles of whatever flavor of anarchist region there is. If they just agree to those principles, they can stay, and the same can't be said for the racial state, right? And it is that distinction that causes them to hate the racial carver-outers more than they hate the mass murderer, Iraq, Afghanistan war bomber people, right? People who like to go around into these countries and just kill people for no apparent end, and then they leave, and it falls to shit, and more people die as a result, right? So I mean that's the insanity we're dealing with, okay? And these comments here are just a little bit more evidence of that, and it's more confirmation of. And I said in my description here that I'm I'm using this as kind of a soapbox for other things I want to say, and the reason I'm doing that is because the actual event itself, Brad Spangler's supposed public confession, is. I mean, it's there's not much that I can really say about it, okay. But basically this thing here, right? This demanding for them to be, right? This is Brad. This does not reflect on all left libertarianism. That's a double standard that they don't allow that charity for their opponents, especially opponents that they call racist, right? If you're a racist, they're gonna take anything that you do and pathologize that onto you and anyone in any ideological proximity to you. All right, They demand a kind of charity that they do not afford to any of their opponents, right? In terms of not generalizing this onto their whole ilk. Okay. Um, right. And and I think and this kind of hypocrisy and these people who are soft on a child molester, on what they think is a child molester, but not on racism, right? Shows that their opposition to racism, it's divorced from harm, right? And this goes back to these so-called anarchists, being livid about racial separatists, but not being quite as livid, right? Being on speaking terms with neocon. Let's bomb and massacre hundreds of thousands of people for nebulous and ill-defined political goals like democracy or something, right? So it's it's a bit surreal, is what it is, and it goes back to what I've been saying, is that anti-racism, it's a religious thing. It's not related to harm. Racism itself is the sin. Okay, and I was thinking about this when I was just perusing YouTube and I was watching this game, a great game, very funny. I really liked it. Punch Out for the Wii. They have all sorts of goofy characters that I think are very well done. And then I saw in the video description, is Punch Out racist? And of course, of course, is Punch Out racist? Because the characters are all cartoon characters, and they're all caricatures, and some of the caricatures are black people and brown people, and so yeah, it's gonna have a caricature of a Canadian. Okay, so sure, it's racist, fine, whatever. But who's it harming? No one, no one. But it is in fact racist, and that's bad. Okay, that's how these people think. Racism is a self-referential sin divorced from harm. It's not about harm; it's about racism as the sin in and of itself. And that's I think, like these Muslims say, yeah, we support killing apostates, and we support, women being subservient to men and men having multiple husbands, and treating people who don't believe in Islam, right, having to pay a certain tax. They also support a ridiculous banking system that doesn't really work, and the so-called Islamic banking stuff that's called Islamic banking isn't actually Islamic banking, but it tries to be close enough but still be financially viable. Anyway, so these Muslims do all these horrible things and support all these horrible views. That's what the polls say. Right? If you look at actual data on what Muslims believe, but all that aside, they'll say, yeah, but see, we're not racist. Like anyone can be a Muslim. Right, and that's so great. They're not racist. At least they're not racist. That's good. Okay, and you'll hear that. You'll hear a lot of these like Red Ken Livingston making that point. Like they're not racist. Okay, these Muslims, they're anti-racist. That's what's important to him. Right, because that's the sin. Right, not the harm that Islam does. Right, not the actual harm. The racism, qua the racism, that's the sin. Go to the Center for the Stateless Societies people. They'll talk to people who support blowing up brown people around the world. Okay, but it's not racist. It's for the spreading of democracy or some other fevered brain, goal that they cooked up out of their college dorm bull sessions about spreading democracy around the world. Okay, so it's not. I mean, it causes untold harm. But see, it's not racism, right? Whereas racial separation, right, wanting to carve out an area and say this is white only, right? That's racism, and so that's evil. And let's say you carve it out, and of course, if you do that, you carve it out in an area that's already majority white, like for example, New Hampshire or Maine, or parts of Oregon, and you say, all right, this is the Whitelandia zone. Right, it's already 94% white. Those non-whites who are here, about half of them are past the age of reproduction, so they can basically stay and live out their lives as they want to. And so, really, we're talking about 2 or 3% of the population that has to leave. So, we're talking about maybe about 50,000 people that within 5 to 10 years have to leave. Right? They have to move. Right? A large proportion of that would have moved anyway. Right? But anyway, that's incorrigible. That cannot be tolerated one bit. Right? That has to be fervently and militantly stamped out, because you can't make black people move out of their homes, and they're going to sacralize their homes and all this stuff. It's quite amazing. And look, I don't expect left libertarians, I don't expect people who are anti-state to be big fans of the racial separatists. I really don't, right? Because first off, racial separatism is a state, and also I know that they have a religious, anti-racist thing, ghosts of the KKK flying throughout their head. I know the fevered emotions that fly around inside their heads. Okay, so right, and one wouldn't expect them to be fans of a racial separatist state, if for no other reason than it is in fact a state. But the fact that they are more anti-racial separatist state than they are anti-neocon betrays just the power of the anti-racist bullshit that they have going through their heads. So that's really what I wanted to say here. Going off on a lot of tangents. I think I'll end the video. I have to end the video sometime, so I end it.